What's up, guys? Jay Thorpe, Flexwork Fitness. We got another book review for you guys. So this one, if I had to choose a favorite book, it's probably definitely top five. This is Cant Hurt Me by David Goggins. So if you guys don't know who David Goggins is, straight badass. If you look up badass in the dictionary, you're gonna see David Goggins' picture right there. So to really kind of describe who David Goggins is, we really got to start from the beginning of his life. So he is a kid who was abused by his father. His father would beat him, his brother up, his mother up. So he comes from a pretty rough upbringing, and he kind of tells you not to let that hold you back, not to let that define you. So again, yeah, he was abused. He actually, I want to say it was Brazil, Indiana, he lived in, and it was actually a pretty racist place. So he was one of very few black people there, and so he would have to deal with that. And his mother ended up leaving. He left with his mother, and I think that's where they fled to, was Brazil, Indiana. But anyway, so this dude had a crazy upbringing. He actually, before he became the David Goggins he describes how he kind of goes through that transition. He was at one point, I think he was like over 300 pounds. He was real fat. He was spraying for cockroaches. That was his life. Then he ended up joining the Marines, I want to say it was. He ended up joining the armed forces. And the cool thing about him is when he put his mind to something, he was 100% in. Dude was somebody who could barely read past the ASVAB. He was somebody who, again, was super fat. He had to lose like over 150 pounds or something like that just to get down to where he was. And so yeah, he ended up doing that, became a Navy SEAL. He was the only person to go through SEAL Hell Week 3 times, I believe it was. And he's describing the whole process of Hell Week, and it's just fucking nuts. I couldn't even imagine going through what he went through. So yeah, he ended up doing that. And again, as African American, he was like one of only like 36 people to go through SEAL training, become a Navy SEAL as an African American, which was a lot of water training. And he talks about how he was negative buoyant, so he would had the propensity to sink, which when you're going for as a Navy SEAL, that's extreme disadvantage. So yeah, he ended up doing that. He became a recruiter for the SEALs, and then after that point, and throughout this whole thing, his whole thing is about strengthening your mind. You can train your mind to become stronger. You can accomplish things that you would never believe you would accomplish. And so he actually turned into a marathon runner. Not even a marathon, ultra marathon runner. And doing this, he actually ran a marathon on broken legs, an ultra marathon on broken legs. He ran the Badwater Marathon, which is 150 miles, I believe 150 miles in the Death Valley, California. So he's done crazy things, and he's a wildland firefighter now. So that's kind of what he's, I guess, like an overall shell of his life. Now, here's what I gathered from the book. So the first thing that I learned from the book is about accountability. So accountability, he would literally go into the mirror every time he's shaving. He would either write his goals down and stick it on the mirror, or he would talk to himself, and he would have like a face-to-face, man-to-man conversation with himself. So if he was slacking, he would tell himself, like, listen, pussy, you gotta get your shit together. And that's kind of something that I do every morning, and I always talk about this in my other videos, writing your goals. So when you write your goals, you have a sense of direction to hit them. And also, if you put a time onto these as well, then you do it in a little bit more of a time-based manner. And so there is some people who kind of start with a little bit of advantage in life, and some people who don't. So one thing he tells you is don't dwell on that. Be your own hero. If you're going through you're starting at one point, there's no excuse why you can't get to where you need to go. You just got to develop thicker skin, and you just got to just toughen your mind to get to that point, which there's a lot of stories of people who are millionaires who come from the projects, come from backgrounds to where they were never taught money or anything like that. Trying to think of how I can tie this into fitness, because mindset is a huge part of hitting your fitness goals. So if you're somebody who comes from a family that eats terribly, you come from a family that like exercise is just never a thing, you're kind of at a disadvantage, especially if we're starting this at like 30 years old, 40 years old, and you essentially have to callous your mind, as he says, into where you're doing the same thing unpleasant over and over and over again. And that's why it's hard for a lot of these people who start into their fitness journey like 30, 40 years old, is that they're not used to it. Their mind is still pretty green to it. So like he says, callousing your mind, just doing the same thing, grinding in day out, and it becomes easier. It truly does. Another thing he really talks about, which agree 100%, is everything in life is a mind game. Tying this into fitness again, if you don't have the mindset to take yourself to the gym, if you don't have the mindset to do the really simple little things that we need to do to achieve a healthy lifestyle, it's not going to happen. You can be the most educated person in the world. You could be somebody who's a professional when it comes to nutrition and that, but if you're not actually putting the work in and putting the steps in to get to that end result, you're going to get nowhere. Like, it's easier to have somebody who's a dummy, but they work hard, and even if they're doing things like really not the best way, they're going to make more progress than the person who knows everything is not taking that action. And crazy enough, one thing I really see this with is like the college athletes that I work with. Hardest work ethic in the world. A lot of them really don't know how to work out. Like, they don't know, or let me explain that. They don't know why they do a lot of the things that they do. They're just kind of just always used to a coach just telling them what to do, and they're making crazy progress that way. He also comes up with something called the 40% rule, which is he believes that people only put in 40% of the effort they need to achieve something. So if you're able to armor your mind, callous your mind, you're able to actually get past that 40% threshold and achieve things that you never thought you could achieve. And reiterating off of the one point is talent is not required. The hard work and the effort that you put into it is going to trump the talent. And again, like we said, with somebody who has the knowledge, now if we kind of compare that to somebody who has immense talent starting out, and then they kind of back off on it because they're kind of playing off their talent, that underdog who's putting in all that work, putting in all those hours behind the scene, he will eventually pass that person up. And it's so crazy. Again, I see this with some of our high school athletes, the ones that are like really the stars in their schools. Like they go to practice, whatever, but they don't really put in the effort that they should be putting in. Once they get to college, where everybody's talented, everybody works hard, they tend to get overwhelmed, and a lot of them will actually drop out of their sports because they're not able to compete at the level because they just kind of banked off their talent. They never really put the hard work in. And something that's really being told a lot in a lot of these self-improvement books is about failure. And failure is a great thing. Again, failure is a way of learning a lesson. So failure, you see what doesn't work, you see what truly the limits that you have, and then when you fail, you kind of learn how to get past that point, and you learn how to, like he says, callous your mind to it. And so yeah, he says failure is the biggest gift of all. And yeah, so here's how this book has helped me personally. I got super fired up listening to this. This book, I think, really set me over the edge to quitting my day job and doing fitness full time. I'm just listening to this book and I'm thinking, like, because he was spraying cockroaches and stuff, and I'm thinking about all like the jobs that I've had that I really didn't want to do, was not passionate about. And so for me, shitty ones, I worked fast food. I was literally a janitor. If you work those jobs, nothing wrong with that, but to me, I felt like I had more potential than to doing something like that, especially whenever I wasn't passionate about it. And I think this was the one that really pushed me over the edge. Hearing his stories about running and how he literally, as not a runner, just signed up for a 100-mile race, made me actually sign up for a race, which was a horrible runner. Can't even say I am still a horrible runner because I've definitely gotten a lot better. But before, all I did was lift weights, and now I run races all the time, and it's something I really enjoy. But I never, like he says, never calloused my mind to get to that point to where I was comfortable running races, and now do them all the time. So yeah, I got that out of it, and it's all about not dwelling on kind of where you're at, and again, just callousing your mind, trying to take yourself out of your comfort zone, and then you will grow from that. Yeah, so this book, you just gotta read it to really get. I'm not doing it any justice, but I'm just trying to think of different points at the top of my head. But yeah, so again, Cant Hurt Me by David Goggins, one of my top 5 favorite books. Definitely a book that's changed my life, and I don't really say that about a lot of books. Again, if there's any recommendations you think I should read and do a review on, let me know. And yeah, so here is book number 3, Cant Hurt Me, David Goggins.